Admiral Kexif stood on the bridge of his massive warship. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. Behind him, the largest fleet in galactic history waited for his orders. "Today, we claim the human worlds," he said to his officers. His voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "For too long, these weak creatures have hidden in their corner of space. They think their 1,000 years of peace makes them safe. They are wrong." The other alien captains nodded. They had heard stories about humans. Small, weak beings with only 2 arms and soft skin. They had no claws, no natural armor, no venom. How could such pathetic creatures survive in a dangerous universe? Captain Vexra, his second in command, pulled up a holographic display. It showed the human territory, 12 star systems with dozens of planets and space stations. "Our intelligence reports show they have no military fleet, no weapons of war. They spend their time growing plants and making art." Admiral Kexif laughed. It was a harsh sound that made the bridge crew smile. "Perfect. This will be the easiest conquest in galactic history. Send the message." The communication officer activated the long-range transmitter. The message would reach every human world at the same time. Admiral Kexif had written it himself. He was proud of how scary it sounded. "Humans of Earth and the colonies," his voice boomed across space. "I am Admiral Kexif of the Zephyrian Empire. By order of the Galactic Council, your species is now at war with the superior races of the galaxy. You have 7 standard days to surrender all your worlds. If you refuse, we will take them by force. Your weak civilization ends now." The message finished transmitting. Admiral Kexith smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Now we wait for their terrified response. On Earth, Captain Jake Martinez sat in his office drinking coffee. He was the head of Earth's diplomatic team. The alien message had just finished playing. On his computer, he took another sip of coffee and shrugged. "Karen, can you get me a line to Admiral Kexith?" He called to his assistant. Karen looked up from her desk. "Sure thing, Jake. Should I use the formal diplomatic channel?" "Nah, just the regular one is fine." A few minutes later, Admiral Kexith's angry face appeared on Jake's screen. The alien expected to see fear. Instead, Jake was smiling and looked relaxed. "Thanks for the heads up about the war," Jake said cheerfully. "I always like to know what's happening. Do you guys need directions to Earth? I can send you our current star charts. They're probably more accurate than whatever old maps you're using." Admiral Kexith's 4 eyes widened. You are not afraid?" "Afraid? Why would I be afraid?" Jake laughed. "Look, Admiral, I appreciate you following proper diplomatic procedures. Most species just show up without calling first. Very rude. But since you're being polite about it, I'll make sure our traffic control knows you're coming. Don't want any accidents in busy space lanes." The alien admiral stared in shock. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. "Human, do you not understand? We are declaring war on your entire species." Jake nodded. "Yeah, I got that part. Karen, can you add this to the calendar? Mark it as Galactic Council declares war. Should we prepare the usual welcome packages for visitors?" Karen typed on her computer. "I'll get the catering department on it. Should we do the vegetarian options too? Some aliens can't eat meat." Admiral Kexith's mouth fell open. "You are treating this like a social event." "Well, sort of," Jake said. "I mean, you're coming all this way to visit. It would be rude not to offer refreshments." "Oh, and Admiral? When you get here, try to park your ships in the designated areas. We just finished repainting the orbital lane markers." The transmission ended. Admiral Kext H stood frozen on his bridge. His officers looked confused. Captain Vexra spoke first. "Sir, perhaps they did not understand the message?" "Send it again," the Admiral ordered. "Make it clearer." Meanwhile, the news of the alien war declaration spread across human space. On Earth, people watched the news while eating lunch. Most of them chuckled and went back to their daily activities. In Central Park, children played on swings while their parents sat on benches. "Did you hear about the aliens declaring war?" one mother asked another. "Oh, yes," the second mother replied, watching her son go down a slide. "My husband thinks it's funny. He says they obviously haven't done their homework about us." On the moon, Dr. Lisa Thompson worked in the Lunar Observatory. She was tracking the alien fleet with her telescopes. Her partner, Dr. Ryan Phillips, looked at the data. "Interesting ship designs," Lisa said. "Very aggressive looking. All weapons." "And armor," Ryan laughed. "Poor things. They have no idea what they're getting into. Want to bet on how long they last?" "That's not very nice, Ryan. They're probably doing their best. I give them 2 weeks before they start asking for help." On the space station orbiting Mars, Commander Bill Johnson received the formal war declaration. He read it twice, then called his crew together. "Folks, we just got word that some aliens had declared war on us," he announced. The crew looked up from their work with mild interest. "Should we be worried, sir?" asked Lieutenant Sue Davis. "Nah," Bill replied. "Just keep doing what you're doing. If they show up here, be polite. Offer them coffee. These things usually work themselves out." Back on Admiral Kexith's ship, the second message had been sent. This time, they made it even more threatening. They included pictures of their weapons and descriptions of what they would do to human cities. Jake Martinez received this message too. He forwarded it to the entertainment department. "This might make a good comedy show," he told Karen. "Very dramatic, though the special effects could use work." Admiral Kexith waited for a response. When it came, it was not what he expected. Instead of surrender or pleas for mercy, he received a formal thank you note from the Earth Tourism Board. "Thank you for your interest in visiting Earth and our colonies," the message read. "We have received your dramatic presentation and appreciate the effort you put into it. While we cannot accommodate your request for unconditional surrender, we would be happy to arrange guided tours of our worlds. Please let us know your dietary restrictions and preferred accommodations." The alien admiral stared at the message. Around him, his bridge crew looked worried. This was not how wars were supposed to start. "Sir," Captain Vexra said quietly, "maybe our intelligence about humans was wrong." Admiral Kexith's confidence began to crack. But he had come too far to back down now. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "We will show them the power of the Galactic Council." As the alien fleet moved toward human space, people across Earth went about their normal lives. They worked in their gardens, attended school, and visited friends. The war declaration had become a minor news story, somewhere between the weather report and the sports scores. Nobody seemed worried. In fact, most humans found the whole situation rather amusing. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens declared war. Admiral Kexith's huge fleet moved through space toward the first human colony. He had chosen the mining station at Kepler 442 as his target. It looked weak and helpless on his scanners. "This will be easy," he told his officers. "One small station with a few hundred humans. We destroy it, and the rest will surrender in fear." The mining station hung in space near a large asteroid field. It looked old and simple. No weapons were visible. On its surface, no military ships guarded it. Admiral Kexith smiled with his sharp teeth. "All ships, prepare for attack," he commanded. On the mining station, Chief Ben Adams sat in his office drinking tea. He was a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes. His assistant knocked on the door. Sir, we have alien ships approaching. They look angry. Ben nodded and pressed a button on his desk. Attention all station personnel. We have visitors who seem upset. Please move to the safe areas. This should not take long. The families and workers on the station moved calmly to the protected sections. They had practiced this many times. Children held their parents' hands and asked questions. Are the aliens really going to fight us, Daddy? A little girl asked. Her father smiled. They might try, sweetie. But don't worry. Our station is very strong. Ben Adams watched the alien fleet get closer. There were 50 warships, each one. Bigger than his entire station. Their weapons were charging up. Ben pressed another button. Defense grid, please activate, he said politely. Around the station. What looked like simple communication dishes and solar panels began to change. They unfolded and repositioned themselves. Energy began to flow between them in patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. Admiral Kexith watched his scanners with confusion. What are those readings? The station is generating massive amounts of energy. Sir, their power output just increased by 10,000%, reported his science officer. Impossible. That little station cannot have such power. The Admiral decided to attack anyway. All ships opened fire. 50 alien warships fired their main weapons at once. Beams of deadly energy lanced through space toward the human station. Each beam was strong enough to destroy a city. Admiral Kexith expected to see the station explode into pieces. Instead, something wonderful and terrible happened. The energy beams simply vanished. They hit the space around the station and disappeared like raindrops falling into a deep lake. Where did our weapons fire go? Admiral Kexith shouted. Unknown, sir. The energy readings suggest it was absorbed by some kind of field around the station. Ben Adams sipped his tea and opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Hello there, he said in a friendly voice. I am Chief Adams of Mining Station 7. I noticed you folks are shooting at us. Is there a problem I can help you with? Admiral Kexith's 4 arms shook with anger. Human, surrender your station immediately. I am afraid I cannot do that. Ben replied. Too many people depend on this station for their jobs. But I would be happy to discuss any concerns you might have. Would you like some coffee? We have very good coffee here. Fire again. The Admiral screamed at his crew. The alien. Ships fired another volley. This time, something even stranger happened. The energy beams appeared to bend around the station, like water flowing around a rock. Some of the beams curved back toward the alien ships themselves. Evasive maneuvers. Captain Vexra shouted. 3 alien ships had to dodge their own weapons. Fire. At that moment, a small human ship appeared from behind an asteroid. It was much smaller than the alien warships. The words Wanderer were painted on its side in cheerful blue letters. Captain Steve Morgan opened a communication channel from his ship. He was a young man with a friendly smile and messy brown hair. Good morning, everyone, he said. I am Captain Morgan of the patrol ship Wanderer. I could not help but notice all the excitement over here. Is everyone okay? Admiral Kexth could not believe what he was seeing. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 50 to 1. Surrender or be destroyed. Steve scratched his head. 50 to 1? That does not seem very fair. Are you sure you need that many ships for one little mining station? We are the Galactic Council. We have the finest weapons in known space. Well, that is nice, Steve said. But you seem to be having trouble hitting anything. Are your targeting systems working properly? My engineer might be able to help. On Steve's ship, Chief Engineer Katie Foster was a short woman with bright red hair. She looked at the alien ships on her screen and shook her head. Poor things, she said. Their weapons are so old-fashioned. Steve, should I show them how it is done? Just a small demonstration, Katie. We do not want to hurt anyone. Katie pressed a few buttons on her console. The Wanderer's single defensive turret turned toward the alien fleet. It was small and did not look dangerous at all. Firing one pulse, Katie announced. A brief flash of light came from the human ship. It was so quick that most people missed it, but 3 of the largest alien warships suddenly went dark. Their engines stopped working. Their weapons powered down. Their lights went out. "What did you do to our ships?" Admiral Kext H demanded. "Oh, we just turned them off," Katie explained cheerfully. "They are perfectly safe. Everyone inside is fine. The ships just need a little nap. They will wake up in a few hours." Captain Steve looked concerned. "I hope your people have enough air and heat. It gets cold in space when the power is off. We have rescue ships on the way if you need help." Admiral Kexith stared at his screens. 3 of his best warships had been disabled by what looked like a minor power fluctuation. His science officer was studying the readings with growing fear. "Sir, I cannot understand how they did that. Our ships show no damage, but every system has been shut down. It is like someone just ... asked them to stop working." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Clark was holding a press conference. She was a calm woman in her 60s with silver hair and a kind smile. Reporters asked her about the alien attacks. "We are very concerned about the safety of the alien crews," she said. "Being stranded in space is dangerous. We are sending humanitarian aid ships to help anyone who needs assistance." One reporter raised his hand. "Madam President, are you not worried about the war?" "War?" President Clark looked puzzled. "I thought this was just a misunderstanding. The aliens seem confused about something. We will help them figure it out." General Danny Wright stood beside the president. He was trying very hard not to laugh. When a reporter asked about Earth's military response, he cleared his throat. "We are recommissioning some of our older ships," he said carefully. "Museum pieces, really. But they should be adequate for rescue operations." What the general did not mention was that Earth's museum ships were left over from the early days of space exploration. They had been built with the most advanced defensive systems humans could create. Even the oldest ones were far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Back at the mining station, Admiral Kext H was growing desperate. Half his fleet was afraid to shoot, and the other half was trying to figure out why their weapons did not work. Ben Adams opened another communication channel. "Admiral, you and your people are welcome to dock at our station. We have medical facilities if anyone is hurt. Our cafeteria serves food that most species can eat." "We do not need your help," the Admiral shouted. "Are you sure? You look frustrated." "Sometimes it helps to talk about your problems with someone." Captain Steve's ship moved closer to the alien fleet. "Admiral Kext, may I ask why you want to fight us? Have we done something to upset you?" The alien admiral paused. The question caught him off guard. You are humans. You are weak. You deserve to be conquered. But why do you want to conquer us? Do you need our planets? Our resources? Maybe we can share." Admiral Kexith had never been asked this question before. In all his years of conquest, nobody had ever offered to share. They had always fought back or surrendered in terror. "This is not how war works," he said weakly. "Maybe we are doing it wrong," Steve admitted. "We have not had a war in a very long time. We might be out of practice." The alien admiral looked at his disabled ships, the untouchable mining station, and the cheerful human faces on his screens. For the first time in his military career, he began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Kext H was having the worst month of his long military career. His fleet had attacked 7 human colonies, and every single battle had ended in embarrassing failure. His ships were being disabled by weapons he could not see. His soldiers were being captured by smiling humans who offered them snacks. The latest disaster had happened at New Seattle. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Davis commanded what the humans called an orbital platform. It looked like a simple space station where people lived and worked. Admiral Kexith had been sure it would be an easy target. He had been very wrong. "Report," he said tiredly to his science officer. "Sir, the platform has defensive capabilities that should not exist. They created a gravity well that pulled our missiles off course. Their energy shields bent space itself. And when we tried to retreat, they somehow made our engines work backward." Admiral Kexith rubbed his head with all four hands. "How many ships did we lose this time?" "None destroyed, sir. But 12 more have been turned off. The humans towed them to what they call a parking orbit. They left welcome baskets for our crews." The alien admiral looked at the latest message from Lieutenant Colonel Davis. She had sent it with a cheerful video of her platform. What had looked like a civilian space station was now clearly revealed as something else entirely. Massive defensive. Arrays unfolded from hidden sections. Energy collectors that looked like artwork became powerful shield generators. Even the gardens and parks on the station's surface were somehow part of its defensive system. "Hello, Admiral Kext," Emma Davis said in the video. She was a tall woman with short black hair and friendly eyes. "I hope your crews are comfortable in their temporary accommodations. We have arranged for them to receive 3 meals a day and access to our entertainment networks. Please let us know if they need anything else." The Admiral wanted to throw something, but there was nothing left to throw. He had tried that after the 3rd failed battle down on the planet New Seattle. Civilian engineer Chris Baker was giving a tour to some captured alien soldiers. Chris was a young man who designed buildings for a living. The aliens had asked him how human structures could be so strong. "Well, it started about 800 years ago," Chris explained as they walked through the city. "We realized that if we were going to live in space, everything needed to be able to protect itself." One of the alien prisoners, a reptilian creature named Glix, looked confused. "But these are just apartment buildings." "Sure, but look closer," Chris said. He pointed to what looked like decorative metal work on the building's walls. "Those patterns are actually energy dispersal grids. If someone shoots at this building, the energy gets spread out and absorbed into the foundation." They walked past a school where human children were playing. The playground equipment looked normal, but Glix's scanner showed it was generating a powerful defensive field. "The swings have shields?" Glix asked in amazement. "Of course," Chris replied. "Children play here. We want them to be safe." Another alien, a blue-skinned female named Yara, pointed at a flower garden. "What about those plants?" Chris smiled. "The roots are connected to underground power conduits. If needed, those flowers can create an energy barrier that would stop a nuclear explosion. But mostly they just look pretty and smell nice." The aliens stared at the garden in shock. Their most powerful weapons could not scratch a flower bed. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Nicole Peters was interviewing more captured aliens in her laboratory. She was a xenobiologist who studied alien life forms. The captured soldiers were healthy and well-fed, but very confused. "We based our invasion plans on 1,000-year-old data," explained Captain Nex, a 6-legged insectoid officer. "Back then, your species had just learned to leave your home planet. You seemed weak and primitive." Dr. Peters nodded as she took notes. "That makes sense. We were very different back then." "What did your intelligence reports tell you about us?" "That humans were soft-skinned bipeds with no natural weapons. Your technology was basic. Your society was divided and quarrelsome. You spent most of your time fighting each other." "Well, that was true a long time ago," Dr. Peters admitted. "But we grew out of that phase. What made you think we had not changed?" Captain Vex looked embarrassed. The Galactic Council assumed that inferior species do not evolve. We thought you would still be the same weak creatures from 1,000 years ago. Dr. Peters made more notes. Did anyone suggest checking for recent information about humans? Intelligence gathering is expensive. Vex said the Council decided it was not necessary for such a primitive species. Across human space, Fleet Admiral Kevin Nash was reading reports from his commanders. Every human colony and station had easily defeated alien attacks. The humans had not lost a single ship or installation. In fact, the biggest problem was finding places to keep all the captured alien crews. Admiral Nash was an older man with white hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He had served in the Space Force for 40 years, but this was the strangest war he had ever seen. His aide, Commander Lisa Brown, brought him the latest casualty reports. Any injuries? The Admiral asked. 3 cases of people laughing too hard while watching the alien surrender broadcasts, Commander Brown reported. 2 pulled muscles and 1 case of hiccups that lasted 6 hours. Medical says everyone will be fine. Admiral Nash chuckled. What about enemy casualties? None killed or seriously injured. We have about 3,000 alien prisoners spread across 12 worlds. Most of them are asking for asylum. They do not want to go back to the Galactic Council. The Admiral was not surprised. The captured aliens had discovered that human society was nothing like what they had been told. Humans had art, music, literature, and science. They had beautiful cities and peaceful planets. Most importantly, they had no desire to conquer or harm other species. Many of the alien soldiers were requesting to stay on human worlds permanently. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kext H was receiving increasingly frantic messages from the Galactic Council. The other alien species were demanding to know why the humans had not surrendered yet. You said this would be easy, screamed Chancellor Vex from the Galactic Council chambers. You said the humans were weak. They are weak, Admiral Kexith protested. They have no weapons, no warships, no armies. Then why are you losing? The Admiral stared at his communication screen. How could he explain that the humans did not need weapons because they had made everything else into a weapon? How could? He described shields that worked by convincing attacks to go somewhere else. They cheat, he said finally. What do you mean, they cheat? Their defenses do not work the way defenses are supposed to work. Their technology does not follow normal rules. They make our weapons stop working just by asking them nicely. Chancellor Vex's face turned purple with anger. You are making excuses. I am telling the truth. These creatures have spent 1,000 years turning defense into an art form. Every building, every vehicle, every garden tool has defensive capabilities. That would make our best warships jealous. The communication ended with Chancellor Vex shouting about incompetent military leaders. Admiral Kext H slumped in his command chair. Around him, his bridge crew looked worried and defeated. Sir, Captain Vexra said quietly, perhaps we should consider retreat. Retreat? Admiral Kexith laughed bitterly. Where would we go? The Council will execute us for failure, and the humans ... The humans will probably offer to help us find new jobs. He was right about that. Earth's diplomatic corps had already sent several messages, offering career counseling and job placement services for any aliens who wanted to change professions. As Admiral Kext H sat on his ship, trying to figure out what to do next, he received a personal message from Jake Martinez, the same human diplomat who had first responded to his war declaration. Hi, Admiral, Jake said cheerfully. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to let you know that we really appreciate how polite your soldiers have been. Very well-behaved prisoners. Anyway, I was wondering if you might be interested in a peaceful solution to this whole misunderstanding. We could meet for coffee. and talk things over. What do you think?" Admiral Kexith stared at the message for a long time. In his entire military career, no enemy had ever offered to solve a war over coffee dot, maybe. He thought it was time to try something new. 6 months had passed since the failed alien invasion began. Admiral Kexith had lost most of his fleet to the strange human defenses. His soldiers were deserting to join human colonies. The Galactic Council was threatening to replace him with someone more competent. In desperation, the Zephyrian Empire made one final decision. They would attack Earth itself with every remaining ship in their fleet. Surely, the human homeworld could not have the same impossible defenses as their colonies. Admiral Kexth stood on his bridge as the largest alien armada ever assembled moved through space toward the blue and green planet called Earth. 300 warships from 12 different species. Enough firepower to crack a moon in half. This time will be different, he told himself. Earth is old. Their defenses will be outdated. He was wrong about that. Captain Tony Brooks commanded the Luna Defense Platform, a space station that orbited Earth's moon. He was a calm man with silver hair who had been watching the alien fleet approach for 3 days. He sipped coffee from his favorite mug while reviewing the defensive grid status. "How many ships are coming, sir?" asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Amy Clark. "About 300, Tony replied. "Biggest fleet they have sent so far. Should we be worried?" Tony smiled. "Nah. The old defenses have not been activated in about 200 years. It will be nice to see if they still work." Around Earth's moon, what looked like ancient communication arrays and mining equipment began to change. Hidden panels opened to reveal technology that made the alien weapons look like stone tools. The moon itself started to hum with power. On Earth's surface, Mayor Sandra Bell of New York was making an announcement to her city. She was a cheerful woman who believed in keeping people informed about current events. "Citizens of New York," she said over the city's communication system, "we are about to have some visitors from space. They seem upset about something, but there is nothing to worry about. The subway system will be rerouted to provide the best viewing angles for tonight's light show. Bring snacks." People across the city reacted the way New Yorkers always reacted to unusual news. They shrugged and went about their business. Many families set up blankets on rooftops to watch whatever was about to happen. In Central Park, children played on swings while their parents prepared picnic dinners. Food vendors began selling alien invasion specials, hot dogs and pretzels with glow-in-the-dark sauce. Admiral Kexith watched Earth grow larger on his screens. The planet looked peaceful and defenseless. Cities sparkled with lights. Ships moved calmly between Earth and its moon. Nobody seemed to be preparing for battle. "Sir, we are detecting some unusual energy readings from the moon," his science officer reported. "What kind of readings?" "Unknown, sir. The power output is ... significant." Admiral Kexith ignored the warning. His fleet was massive. 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. What could one little planet do against such overwhelming force? "All ships, prepare for final attack," he commanded. "Target the major cities. Show these humans the price of defying the Galactic Council." In the Earth Defense Center, Colonel Andrew Taylor sat at his console drinking tea. He was responsible for coordinating the planet's defensive systems. Most of the time, his job was very boring. Earth had not been attacked in over 800 years. "Colonel, should I activate the grid?" asked his assistant, Sergeant Pete Wilson. "Let them get a little closer," Andrew replied. "No point in showing off until they are committed to the attack." Around Earth, satellites that people thought were HFY weather monitoring and communications began to unfold. Ancient defense platforms hidden in asteroid orbits powered up for the first time in centuries. The space around Earth started to shimmer with energy fields that bent light in strange ways. Admiral Kexith gave the order to attack. 300 alien warships fired their weapons at once. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a dozen planets. Beams of energy and streams of missiles streaked toward Earth like falling stars. The people on the rooftops cheered and pointed at the pretty lights in the sky. Then something beautiful and terrifying happened. The space around Earth seemed to come alive. Reality itself bent and twisted as the planet's defensive grid activated fully for the first time in centuries. The alien weapons fire simply stopped existing. Not absorbed, not redirected, but politely asked to be somewhere else. The missiles found themselves turned around and heading back toward the ships that fired them. Energy beams curved through dimensions that hurt to think about. What is happening? Admiral Kexith screamed at his instruments. Sir, our weapons are confused. They do not know which way to go. That is impossible. On his screen, Admiral Kexith watched Earth's true defenses reveal themselves. The moon unfolded like a flower, showing weapons platforms that dwarfed his entire fleet. Asteroids in nearby space turned out to be disguised battle stations. Even Earth's clouds began to glow with defensive energy, but the most impossible thing was the planet itself. Earth was not just protected by its defenses. Earth was the defense. The entire planet had been turned into a massive shield generator, powered by the sun and anchored in the fabric of space itself. Colonel Andrew Taylor checked his instruments and nodded with satisfaction. 17 minutes from start to finish, he announced to his staff. Not bad for a system that has not been used in 8 centuries. The alien fleet found itself gently, but firmly moved to a parking orbit around Earth's moon. Their weapons were disabled, their engines were turned off, and their communication systems were filled with polite messages, offering technical assistance and refreshments. Admiral Kext H sat in his command chair, staring at the impossible sight outside his viewports. His mighty fleet was floating helplessly in space, surrounded by defense platforms that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else. Communication request came in from Earth. Admiral Kext H accepted it, expecting to hear demands for surrender. Instead, he saw the face of President Helen Clark. She was sitting in what looked like a normal office, with flowers on her desk and pictures of her grandchildren on the wall. "Hello, Admiral," she said kindly. "I hope your fleet is comfortable. We have prepared temporary accommodations for your crews. Medical teams are standing by if anyone needs assistance." You defeated us," Admiral Kexith said in shock. "Defeated? Oh no, I do not think we defeated anyone. We just made sure nobody got hurt. Would you like to come down to Earth? We could discuss whatever is troubling you." Admiral Kexth looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their instruments in confusion and fear. Everything they knew about warfare had just been proven wrong. "How?" he asked. "How did you do this?" President Clark smiled. "We had 1,000 years of peace, Admiral. We spent that time solving problems instead of creating them. When your biggest worry is keeping everyone safe and happy, you get very good at keeping everyone safe and happy. But the power required the technology. Oh, that." The president waved her hand. "When you have nothing else to do for a millennium, you learn some interesting things about physics. Turns out the universe is much more cooperative than most people think, if you ask it nicely." Admiral Kexith's worldview crumbled completely. "What happens to us now? That depends on what you want to happen. You and your people are welcome to stay as long as you like. We have plenty of room, and frankly, it would be nice to have some new perspectives around here. Or if you prefer, we can help you find your way home. No pressure either way." The alien admiral stared at the human president. In his culture, defeated enemies were enslaved or executed. The idea of being offered a choice was completely foreign. To him, you would let us go? Just like that? Of course. Though I should mention that several of your soldiers have already requested asylum. They seem to like it here. Apparently, our food is better than military rations. Admiral Kext H closed his eyes and tried to process what was happening. His invasion had failed completely. His fleet was captured. His career was over. And humans were offering him coffee and citizenship. It was the strangest defeat in galactic history. On Earth below, the people of New York were giving the alien light show a standing ovation. The mayor was already planning a welcome parade for their new alien neighbors. Food trucks were being moved into position to feed 300,000 hungry alien soldiers. The greatest invasion fleet in galactic history had become the galaxy's most expensive refugee crisis. And somehow, that seemed perfectly normal to the humans. 5 years had passed since the failed invasion of Earth. The galaxy was a very different place now. Admiral Keksith, former commander of the Zephyrian fleet, walked through the halls of Earth University, wearing the blue robes of a graduate student. It still felt strange to him. "Good morning, Admiral," said Dr. Alan Gray, his professor. Dr. Gray was a small man with wild white hair and kind eyes. He taught courses in defensive technology and peaceful problem-solving. "Good morning, Professor," Keksith replied. He still had trouble with human customs, but he was learning. "I have finished reading about your early shield generators. I do not understand how they work," Dr. Gray smiled. "That is perfectly normal. They do not work the way most people expect technology to work. Would you like me to explain again?" They walked together toward the laboratory. Around them, human and alien students chatted in hallways lined with artwork from dozens of different worlds. The university had become a symbol of the new galactic civilization that humans had accidentally created. "Professor, may I ask you something?" Keksith said as they entered the lab. "Of course. Why did humans spend 1,000 years learning to defend themselves instead of learning to attack others?" Dr. Gray paused at his desk. It was covered with papers, coffee cups, and a small plant that his daughter had given him. "That is an interesting question. I suppose it is because we learned something important very early in our space age." "What did you learn?" "That the universe is big and full of dangerous things. Asteroids, radiation, equipment failures, accidents. We realized that if we wanted to survive out here, we needed to get very good at protecting ourselves from everything that could go wrong." Kext nodded slowly. "But what about protecting yourself from other species?" "Well," Dr. Gray said, setting up an experiment, we figured that if we could protect ourselves from black holes and supernovas, protecting ourselves from weapons would not be much harder. Turns out we were right. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the former Galactic Council was being restructured into something new. Dr. Rachel Moore, humanities expert on galactic politics, was helping former enemies learn to work together peacefully. Meeting room on the space station was filled with representatives from dozens of species. They had been arguing about trade routes for 3 hours. Dr. Moore, a patient woman with short brown hair, listened to their complaints with the calm expression of someone who had raised 5 children. "Species Representative Vorth," she said, to a large armored creature, "you say that the Clixon trade ships are too slow?" "Yes, they block shipping lanes for days." Representative Slixon, who looked like a walking tree, rustled his leaves indignantly. "Our ships are perfectly adequate. The Vorth vessels are simply too impatient." Dr. Moore made notes on her tablet. "Have either of you considered coordinating your schedules? Perhaps the Vorth ships could use the express lanes while Clixon ships use the scenic routes?" Both aliens stared at her. "There are scenic routes?" asked Representative Vorth. "Of course. Humans mapped them years ago. Some species enjoy taking their time and seeing interesting nebulae along the way. Others prefer to get where they are going quickly. No reason both approaches cannot work. Within an hour, Dr. Moore had helped them create a solution that made everyone happy. It was a skill that humans had developed over their long years of peace, the ability to find ways for different groups to coexist without fighting. On Earth, former Admiral Kexith was struggling with a problem. His professor had given him an assignment to design a simple defensive system, but everything he created kept turning into a weapon. "I do not understand," he told his study group. The group included 2 humans, a reformed Zephyrian soldier and a former Galactic Council scientist. "How do you make defenses that do not hurt attackers?" Susan Miller, a human engineering student, looked at his designs. "Well, what are you trying to defend against?" "Weapons fire." "Okay, so instead of destroying the weapons fire, what if you just asked it to go somewhere else?" Kexith blinked all 4 of his eyes. "You can ask weapons fire to go somewhere?" "Sure," said Tom Baker, another human student. "Energy wants to follow the path of least resistance. If you make it easier for the energy to go around your target than through it, the energy will choose to go around." "But that is not how physics works." Susan and Tom exchanged glances. "Have you taken Professor Gray's course on applied physics?" Susan asked. "Not yet. You should. Humans have learned some interesting things about how the universe really works. Most of what other species think they know about physics is only partially correct." That afternoon, Kexith attended his first applied physics lecture. Professor Gray stood in front of a classroom filled with alien students who looked confused and slightly frightened. "Today we will discuss the concept of polite matter," Professor Gray announced cheerfully. "Can anyone tell me what happens when you ask a proton nicely to move?" A Clixon student raised a branch-like appendage. "Professor, matter does not respond to requests." "Are you sure about that?" Professor Gray activated a device on his desk. A stream of particles appeared in the air, glowing softly. "Particles, would you mind forming a heart shape?" The stream of matter immediately rearranged itself into a perfect heart. The alien students gasped in shock. "You see," Professor Gray explained, "matter is much more cooperative than most people realize. The problem is that most species try to force matter to do what they want. Humans learned to ask politely instead." After class, Kexith approached the professor with a worried expression. "Professor Gray, this changes everything I thought I knew about science." "Yes, it tends to do that," the professor agreed. "Do not worry. Everyone goes through this phase when they first learn human physics. You will get used to it. But if matter can be asked to cooperate, why did no other species discover this?" Professor Gray thought for a moment. Probably because they were too busy fighting wars to notice. When you spend all your time trying to destroy things, you do not learn much about cooperation. Humans had 1,000 years of peace to experiment with asking the universe nicely instead of demanding things from it. Across human space, the results of this philosophy were visible everywhere. Former alien soldiers worked alongside human engineers, building space stations that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Trade ships moved along routes that bent through folded space, cutting travel time from months to days. Ambassador Marcus Johnson, who had spent the last 5 years helping former enemies integrate into human society, was preparing for his biggest challenge yet. The Galactic Rehabilitation Program was sending its first joint expedition beyond the galaxy's edge. The ship was called Harmony, and it was crewed by volunteers from 20 different species. Their mission was to find new civilizations and welcome them into the peaceful federation that humans had accidentally created. Captain Julie Stone stood on the bridge of Harmony, looking at her diverse crew. She was a tall woman with gray hair who had spent her career exploring unknown regions of space. Beside her stood her first officer, former Admiral Kexith, who had requested a chance to help spread peace instead of war. "Ready for departure, Captain," reported Lieutenant Yix, the ship's navigation officer. Yix was one of the former Galactic Council scientists who had decided to stay and work with humans. "Excellent," Captain Stone replied. "Take us out, Lieutenant." As Harmony left the galaxy behind, its crew carried with them the most dangerous weapon humans had ever created. Idea that different species could work together without fighting. It was an idea that had already transformed one galaxy, and now it was heading toward the stars beyond. On Earth, Dr. Gray was grading papers in his office when he received a message from Captain Stone. The expedition had found their first new civilization, a species that had been at war with itself for 10,000 years. "They have agreed to meet with us," Captain Stone reported. "They want to know how we learn to live in peace." Dr. Gray smiled and began composing a reply. He would recommend starting with the basics, teaching them to ask matter politely instead of forcing it to obey. From there, they could learn about cooperation, shared resources, and the radical idea that problems were more fun to solve together than alone. It would take time, but humans had plenty of that. After all, they had learned patience during their 1,000 years of peace. Now they had eternity to share what they had discovered with the rest of the universe. In his laboratory, former Admiral Kexith finally succeeded in designing his first purely defensive system. It would protect a space station from weapon fire by convincing the attacks to become flowers instead. He was not sure why it did that, but Professor Gray had taught him that sometimes the universe had a sense of humor. As he looked at his work, Kexith realized that he was happier now than he had ever been as a conqueror. Learning to create instead of destroy, to protect instead of attack, to cooperate instead of dominate, these were the real victories. The greatest joke in galactic history had become the foundation of galactic peace. And somewhere in the universe, reality itself was smiling.